This is their own game that they've made natively for this device. What the hell is going on with Nintendo? Hey, Ollie FS here. Today I'll be roasting a console which is as much yin as it is yang. It's the device that can make you feel like a kid again, whilst reminding you of the benefits of growing up. The Nintendo Switch. So there's no unboxing today because I've had this for quite a few years now. So let's just start off with the design. The Nintendo Switch is a handheld console with detachable Joy-Cons. Super clever idea in theory because, I mean, they've sold 141 million devices and that's just this year alone. So, I mean, they're on track to overtake the Nintendo DS and the PS2. But it's a bit of a weird device. It's obviously a handheld console and also a home gaming console, but it doesn't really excel at either of them. It's got that signature Nintendo look, you know, it's simple, playful, a bit toy-like, and I think they're going for that with the red and blue accents. But if I'm honest, I think we're letting Nintendo get away with too much. I mean, there's plastic everywhere, there's gummy buttons, and it's flimsy. Like, I feel like if I sat on this, it would break. And listen to this. What the fuck? How many of your devices at home sound like that? Honestly, it just feels like Nintendo launched a late stage prototype with the Switch. And you know what? If they'd improved on any of these things with the newer model, this wouldn't even be a big deal. But they didn't. I mean, when the Switch came out, there wasn't a single other mainstream handheld on the market with high budget games that could compete. The PSP was dead, the Steam Deck wasn't even out, and the iPhone, I mean, do you even game on yours? People just love buttons, I guess. So the killer feature that supercharged the success of the Switch was most definitely the detachable Joy-Cons. I remember seeing ads at the time and people detaching them to play home party games, and then with everything leaning towards online multiplayer, the novelty and the convenience of this was pretty exciting. Until you actually buy one. This shit is so weird to detach. I mean, you have to hold down a button and then slide it off a rail and then be super precise in sliding it back on the rail. I'll give it credit that there is a tactile click when it gets back into place. So there's some props there. I mean, they've had enough time to improve this. What about magnets, bitch? Something to fix this like super particular sliding motion. It's kind of weird. The buttons are just fine, I guess. Tiny little thumbsticks if you've got T-Rex arms. You'd never be able to compete with this against anyone in any esports. It wouldn't hold up against most console players. I think that's kind of the point, to be honest, with Nintendo. Their whole ecosystem is built around a far more relaxed playing style, like a slice of life kind of approach to gaming. I get it. By the way, if you've owned a Switch for more than 6 months, you might have noticed that the thumbsticks have more drift than a Tokyo street race. What this means is your character now has free will and they can move on their own to combat your oppressive thumbs. Sometimes you might as well just be watching a movie instead because it gets pretty bad. I mean, they only had 4 years to fix this from the base model, so yeah. But if you can't tell from looking at their game prices, Nintendo don't give a shit about your opinion. Now then, imagine every time you put bread in the toaster. You had to put it in the right way around, at the right angle, and if you drop it in, the bread's ruined. What the hell's going on with the dock and the toaster-ass design? It's like when you're trying to plug a USB into the back of the TV and you can't see, and then you put it in one way, it doesn't work, twist it around, put it in the other way, still doesn't work, twist it again, and then finally it works. Oh, and by the way, if you put the Switch in slightly wrong, people have reported that they've scratched their screen as well. So yeah, this sucks all around, I guess. I mean, the best part about this is that you can actually dock the device to charge it and connect to a TV if you don't want to play handheld. But seriously, it's time to make a magnetic dock, Nintendo. I memean, you can still have the USB-C port if you want, but the docking right now, the ergonomics are so trash. I mean, it's not quite as trash as the dead cockroach design from Apple with the Magic Mouse, but it's up there. It's got a little latch at the back to kind of hide all the ports. Again, I like that they tried something innovative when they launched 7 years ago, but with zero improvements to the newer model and no plans to upgrade anytime in the future, it's shit. So this is going to rub a lot of people up the wrong way. Let's talk about the Switch display. The standard model features a 6.2 inch LCD display with a resolution of 1280 by 720. Yep, you heard that right, 720p. I'm not going to rip into this too much because it was 7 years ago when Nintendo dropped this. No, fuck it, I will. I mean, you can barely call it an upgrade. The OLED model, okay, it has an OLED panel. I mean, it's functional. Okay, great. But when you're playing something as stunning as Breath of the Wild, you can't really help but wish for more pixels. OLED is obviously more efficient when it comes to battery saving. The newer model has a 7-inch screen with better colors, has darker blacks, but let's not kid ourselves here. Nintendo are cutting corners wherever they can. They know two very important things about the Nintendo Switch audience. I mean, a lot of Switch players are nostalgic about older games, so they don't need better screens. And the second reason is, if Nintendo did upgrade their screens, they wouldn't be able to keep getting away with the dog's batch ports of AAA games. So another example of a corner that Nintendo cut is in the battery department. Now I know what you're thinking. Ollie, the battery's improved from the base model to the newer OLED model. Supposedly it's gone from 2.5 hours to 4.5 hours minimum, and from 6 hours to 9 hours maximum. Well, I regularly only get a maximum of 2 hours. So I don't know who's been testing this, but they're lying, or I've got a dud. And Nintendo didn't actually improve the battery at all from the base to the newer model. This is the base model, and it has a 4,310 milliamp hour battery. The newer model also has a 4,310 milliamp hour battery. All they did was improve the efficiency of the screen. 2 birds with 1 stone, and everyone's happy. Still, is this really good enough for Nintendo? It essentially means that it needs charging after pretty much every use. So you're going to have autosave turned on for Skyrim. If you're planning a long trip, or in fact any trip at all, this thing's going to have to be fully juiced. Portability at its finest. So charging the Switch is done by USB-C, which is a nice touch, I'll be honest. But they put the charging port on the bottom. So if you want to charge it whilst you're using the kickstand, forget about it. Actually, this is Magic Mouse territory, designed for your inconvenience. And speaking of kickstand, it's about as sturdy as a wet noodle. One little slip and I can't even open it. Okay, and you'll be buying a Steam Deck. Under the hood, the Switch is powered by the NVIDIA Tegra X1, a chip from the prehistoric era of 2015. It runs Nintendo's own games pretty well. Mario Odyssey, Monster Hunter, Splatoon. They're all pretty smooth experiences. The second you throw a demanding third-party game in there, you're going to see it struggle. Again, this isn't a problem with the base model. It's an older console, but they decided to keep the exact same chip again for the newer model. So in 2021, when the OLED model came out, they used the exact same chip from 6 years prior. But I guess Animal Crossing runs smoothly at least, so. What's wild to me is how in 2024, people are still okay with the frame rate dropping below 30 FPS. Take Tears of the Kingdom, for example. For the most part, it's pretty smooth. But again, because of the compromises they made, it dips down to 20 FPS. And then it looks like Link is wading through jelly. This is their own game that they've made natively for this device. What the hell is going on with Nintendo? I mean, if you want an evening of disappointment without getting drunk at a bar, just boot up Witcher 3 or Doom Eternal. 20 FPS if you're lucky. Now, if we're talking about native Switch games, this is where the console finally shines. Nintendo's first-party titles are unmatched. You've got your Zeldas, Mario games, Animal Crossings, Metroid, Xenoblade, Fire Emblem, and the list goes on. But once you move past those gems, it gets rocky. The eShop is filled with indie titles, ports, most of which are overpriced compared to other platforms. It's like Nintendo saw Steam's model and they said, why don't we charge double for games that you can get half price everywhere else, and then make the experience worse? Yeah, let's do that. Of course, you'll find some gems in the eShop under a mountain of shovelware and mobile game ports that should have definitely stayed on mobile. But bro, don't get me started on the ports. What is with Nintendo allowing this trash on their store? I mean, not only are people paying top dollar for this, because discounts are about as likely as Mario keeping Peach safe for a week, but you can get the same game on any other device and it'll be 10 times better and cheaper. So the Switch game library is a bit of a mixed bag, because it is the console for you if you love Nintendo's first party magic, you don't mind sifting through a landfill of overpriced indie games, and you enjoy paying for the privilege of a subpar online experience. But then Joy-Cons, however, if you're not playing comical ports like Call of Duty or FIFA, and you stick to their native game library, you'll be in for a treat for about 2 hours. And then there's the Nintendo Switch Online. It's cheap, sure, but you get what you pay for. I mean, it's really an offline device. if I'm honest, with online functionality sort of crowbarred in. So it works, technically, but it's more temperamental than British weather. And if you're a fan of the game Portal, you'll love playing online because you'll be teleporting all over the place and getting angry. Also, you know how you play online to chat with friends? Nintendo execs were in a meeting one day and they were like, why don't we create this app on a handheld device to allow people to chat together? And the intern said,
You mean through the Switch, right?
don't be ridiculous. On their phones, obviously. You're fired. I mean, I get it. Obviously, phones are kind of made for this talking thing. But imagine if every time you open your laptop and wanted to have a meeting with someone, you had to get out your phone to talk to them. Because, well, phones are made for this thing, right? But seriously, if Nintendo cut any more corners from the Switch, it would be a circle. It's a good job Nintendo have an awesome collection of offline games that they released 10 years ago. So, should you buy a Nintendo Switch in 2024? So if you're a diehard fan, interested in playing native games offline, near a charger, you don't care about competitiveness, graphics, sound, ergonomics, then yeah, this is the perfect device for you. Just kidding. Smash Bros is pretty competitive. What we really need is the return of the PSP. Now, the Switch is obviously cool for the ton of exclusives that you get. Also, the multiplayer, home party games, like I mentioned, detachable Joy-Cons, very cool. And on top of that, you've got the portability, so it does have some positives. It has its place in the world, but I think with the improvements, that we discussed, it could really start clawing back some of that market share, which is being taken right now by the Steam Deck. And the upcoming PSP, I imagine, will take a lot of it. We've also got more unknown handhelds, like the ROG Ally and some others that I can't remember. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.